Welcome back to Jayhawk Jukebox. I'm Nathan,
And I'm Nathaniel.
and today we're starting a brand new artist. We're going to do Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble. Nathaniel, what did you know about SRV and Double Trouble?
Well, all I know that is he's one of the great bluesmen of any generation,
Mhm.
and he really revived the blues in the late 80s.
Mhm.
Well, not late 80s, I guess early 80s
Mhm.
and early 90s. And I know he was killing that terrible helicopter crash.
Yeah.
Because life very short. He was
Yeah,
very young.
it's almost like the blues weren't cool in the late 70s and early 80s. You know, obviously you had the artists before that, B.B. King, Albert King, Buddy Guy. And then the blues just kind of died off a little bit. And then here comes, this young kid out of Texas named Stevie Ray Vaughan who basically revived the entire genre by himself almost.
And the only people that were really dabbling in the blues at the time, maybe early Led Zeppelin or Cream, early Eric Clapton, but there was no mainstream blues stuff until Stevie Ray really came.
And by the time Stevie Ray Vaughan had come around, Clapton had kind of gone away from the blues, and all the other bands had getting to hair pop and metal and stuff like that, so the blues had kind of fallen off. So this is his first album, Texas Flood. What were your impressions of the album?
Well, I will have to say this is probably one of the best debuts I've ever heard from anybody ever. I don't say that about a lot of debut stuff, but this is almost a perfect album for a debut.
I would agree. I would agree. I mean, this, to get introduced to Stevie Ray Vaughan, it's unlike anything you've ever heard. It's a mix of older blues, but at the same time, he's bringing a whole new style to it. And nobody has a voice like Stevie Ray Vaughan. It's a raspy but almost soulful type voice that nobody had really ever heard before, along with his incredible guitar work. So what were some of your favorite songs off the album?
The first song on there, Love Struck Baby, that is now my favorite SRV song ever.
Mm-hmm.
Just the guitar riff is so incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Is that SRV on guitar on that, or is it Double
I would
Trouble
have to
on
think so.
Just incredible. And obviously Pride and Joy is one of the best Stevie Ray
everybody knows Pride
Vaughan
and Joy.
songs. That's one of his most well-known stuff. But Dirty Pool is another great song in here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of instrumental stuff on here too, which I was surprised by, but it's really good too.
You've got Lenny with the instrumental type stuff. I would say, some of my favorite on here, obviously Pride and Joy. Pride and Joy, in my opinion, is one of the best introduction songs to an artist. You hear some of Stevie Ray Vaughan on Love Struck Baby, but then you get to Pride and Joy and you really start to hear the rapsable, soulful voice, especially, on the first, almost stop of the guitar. And he's, I love my baby, heart and soul. You hear that kind of stuff. And it's really where, if you have headphones on, you just kind of stop and you're kind of like, whoa, wait a minute. And his great guitar work on it. Texas Flood is obviously a great song.
And like you mentioned with the headphones, I listened to this whole thing on headphones and it is unbelievable. It's just a pleasure for the ears, really, with the guitars.
Yeah. I mean, this is such a great album. It's an incredible debut. And, what's cool about this pressing is that this is kind of a higher quality pressing. This is a recent reissue from Quality Record Pressings and Acoustic Sounds. And what's special about this is that the original album was only one disc. But this is a double disc, and this is actually pressed at a higher speed at 45 RPM because you get a lot more better groove definition, you minimize inner groove distortion, and it brings a whole new quality to such an incredible debut album. So what would you give this album in terms of rating?
If we're talking debut standard, just a 10. Overall, probably a 9.5. Really good.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with a 9.5 or a 10.
I mean, for this, it's up there with The Doors, self-titled, or
Dire Straits.
Yeah, Dire Straits. I know you didn't really like the Velvet Underground stuff as much, but that's up there.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
incredibly recognizable first album. I would be with you at a 9.5 or a 10. So next week we're going to go on to the next one, Couldn't Stand the Weather, which in my opinion is his best album. Up next, we've got a special interview segment with Nathaniel.
For students searching for a way to stay active in an outdoorsy way, the City of Lawrence has bike trails running in every direction, and with the new bike share program, we can stay in shape as we tour the sights of our beautiful city. Clinton Lake is only a short 30-minute bike ride away from Daisy Hill and has the most incredible sunset location in all of Lawrence. Walking campus may give you the KU calves, but biking can give you the KU thighs. Bike Lawrence today.
Welcome back. I'm Nathaniel, and today I'm here with a very special guest. This is our first big interview on the show, and today I have with me Mr. Matt Kessler of the Pedal Jets, who are local Lawrence legends here.
Wow. Yeah.
Well,
you.
I just want to say I've listened to your new album. It's one of the best albums I've really heard in recent memory. I just want to say that it has so many influences from people that I love, and I love people that take those influences and make it their own. So
Yeah, we kind
kudos
of,
to you.
as a band, we kind of wear our influences on the sleeve anyway. So I appreciate that. Coming from you, that's quite a compliment.
Thank you. Well, my first question is, how did you form the Pedal Jets? Were you involved in any bands before this?
Yeah, I grew up, like all through my high school years, I was in a cover band. And then we actually all moved to Lawrence to go to school. And there's three of us, a three-piece band. We lived in the same house together. And I was involved quite a bit with KJHK. I started working at KJHK, and that's where I met Mike Allmeyer, the main songwriter and singer in the Pedal Jets. And yeah, so it just kind of took off from KJHK, actually.
Very cool.
Yeah,
That's really
how we
cool.
got together.
What was the Lawrence music scene like at that time? Was it really booming, or was there nothing there really?
Oh man, it was great. It was really there was a lot going on, a lot of and like I said, I started out playing in a cover band, and you know, when I came to Lawrence and started playing with Mike and the Pedal Jets, it was all original music, which was the way Mike put it was like, okay, when you're playing in a cover band, you know, the applause is for how well you played a song they know, you know. When you get applause and you know, feedback from original music, it's pretty much 100%, right? I mean, it's all.
Right.
So yeah, it was that was a kind of the beginning of really taking what we were doing very seriously, and you know, trying to create that as a career.
Well, we were talking about influences or I was especially listing like all these bands that I thought influenced with your
Right.
songs. But what are some of your musical influences?
Oh wow! Well, that's again pretty diverse. I mean, I play a lot. I'm in 4 different bands right now, and one of them is a jazz band. I play a stand-up bass in a jazz band, and so I have a lot of jazz influence. Rock and roll for sure. I mean, I grew up with, you know, the Who and Hendrix and Cream and the Rolling Stones, all the classics. And then, like I said, once I came to Lawrence, I really kind of opened up to what, you know, a lot of new music, a lot of young music, a lot of you know, alternative, I guess you would call it, you know, and also. We had places here in town. There was Off the Wall Hall, which is now the Bottleneck, and Liberty Hall. You could rent Liberty Hall and, you know, put on shows. So we actually started putting on shows at Liberty Hall.
Very cool.
And we brought in one of the first shows we did was we brought in Husker Du, and naturally opened up for them. And the second one we did was the Gun Club. I don't know if you're familiar with the Gun Club, but look that one up.
I will. I'll have to look that one up.
I'm surprised. I mean, you seem to know about every other band.
Yeah, I do. That's what I don't know.
Well, now you got something to look up.
I do.
And check out.
So you've opened for some influential, I would call more underground or cult bands like
Right.
Meat Puppets or The Replacements. What was it like performing with them or opening for them?
Well, you know, early on we started. You know, we one of the first bands we toured with was the Flaming Lips, and you know, they had all their, you know, they had quite a show. So they had like fireworks and all that kind of stuff going on all the time. But yeah, once we, you know, it was pretty fun. I mean, we toured with different bands where we'd go out and we'd play. We'd already be on a tour. Maybe we'd hook up with like Husker Du. We hooked up for 5 shows. You know, the Replacements, that was in Kansas City. We opened up for them. First time was at the Uptown Theater. And then the second time was at Memorial Hall. And that was quite an experience because the stage is huge. You know, it's an auditorium. I mean, the side fills were as big as any PA system I'd ever played on, so it was pretty exciting.
Now, do you view the Pell Jets as more of an underground band, kind of like Meat Puppets?
Yeah, yeah, and that's another one. We did a lot of shows with the Meat Puppets. We toured quite a bit with them. Pedal Jets, you know, I hate to say it, but you know, we kind of feel like we had a little bit of a curse, just because you know we were right there. You know, we had the same manager as Nirvana, you know, at one point, and you know, obviously their train went a different direction. But you know, like you said, again, I was able to, you know, I wouldn't trade any of it for the world. You know, our very first tour, our last show was in Minneapolis at the 7th Street entry, which is attached to the First Avenue, which is where Prince filmed Purple Rain.
Very cool.
So halfway, you know, through our set, our sound guy comes up to us and says, "Hey, Prince is here and wants to play. I mean, can you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you know." I didn't believe him because we were joking about that the whole way there, you know. I was like, "Oh yeah, Prince." So I started looking around and I could see his entourage. And I was like, maybe this is for real, you know. So we played one more song and I said, "Hey, you know," handed it over to Prince, and Prince took over and played a set. You know, a 3-piece band. It was amazing.
And like you said, working with the Meat Puppets, I thought that was so cool because, like, on Nirvana's MTV Unplugged, they play a couple songs by Meat Puppets. It's like, oh my God, you opened for the guys that Nirvana covered on MTV Unplugged. That's so cool to me.
Yeah, that's well.
So why did the band break up after 2 albums?
Well, burnout. Mainly, we didn't have like a falling out. We got mad at each other, break up. It just kind of stopped. I mean, we had I think it was the Sophomore Jinx album. That album took us a year to get it out, and by the time it came out, timing was off. It was just frustrating, and it was hard to justify. I don't know. It was burnout more than anything, but. Like I said, we didn't really have like a falling out, so it was never an anger issue, and so you know, after another 22 years, we ended up getting back together, kind of by accident. We ran across a 2-inch tape, master tape from one of our recordings, and took it to a studio to get digitalized, and next thing you know, the engineer was putting some mixes on some songs. It got put on a compilation album. And then they wanted us to play at a show in support of that album. So we ended up back together.
Very cool. But what did you do in the meantime during that period where you weren't with the Pell Jets?
Well, I continued to play in different bands, but I opened up a guitar store. I sold guitars for 25 years, yeah. So yeah, it was pretty fun. I met a lot of rock stars through that, you know, which was pretty amazing.
What was it like recording this new album, Twist the Lens? What was that like last year?
Well, it's a lot different than it used to be. We used to do everything on tape. Now it's, you know, it's so much can be done on your own. You know, I said I had a guitar store. I had it set up. I had pretty much a sound stage. I mean, I had a stage set up in the shop, and then in the back of the shop, I had a recording studio. So we were able to. You know, fly stuff around. We could record it. We could record stuff over here, and then we could go into the real studio, and you know, record the drums, do things like that. It just kind of it was a lot different than it used to be because we used to be limited, you know, on time, money especially, and you couldn't put more than 16 tracks. So now it's you can do whatever you want. I mean, at one point we had 170 some odd tracks on one song. So that became a problem, you know, because you could do all this stuff. So it came back around to sifting it out, sifting through. And so part of the last 2 albums, we've been fortunate to do all the recording ourselves, but then have John Aniello mix them. So we've gone to New York and had John Aniello, he's a a big time engineer, producer. So so that helped us a lot in being able to sort through the stuff and pick what needed to be on the record.
What's in the Pelham Jet's future now after the pandemic is over? What are the
Wow.
plans?
Well, you know, it's hard to say because we were so we were geared up. And like I said, here we were again. This album came out in February 2020. We played 2 shows in support. We had tours lined up, everything ready to go, and the pandemic hit and stopped dead in our tracks. So that's the luck that we've had. So I don't know what's going to happen. You know, hopefully we can get back to playing some live music because, you know, we all certainly miss that. But you know, safety is our biggest
Right.
concern these days. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, I would really like to thank you for coming in. This has been
Hey.
amazing.
It's my pleasure.
Anything else you'd like to add before we cut to commercial break?
Pick up Pedal Jet's new album, Twist the Lens.
It's really good. It's really
Thank
good.
you.
Well, up next, we'll have This Week in History with Audrey and Emma when we're back.
From adversity, we rose. We made history and became pioneers, voyagers, champions, Jayhawks. And when our chant rises, haunting and hallowed, Jayhawks are telling the world what's near. Victory.
Hi, I'm Emma.
And I'm Audrey. Welcome to This Week in History.
In 1959, Jimi Hendrix made his stage debut. He was only 16 years old and made his debut at the Temple de Hirsch Sinai Synagogue in Seattle. Hendrix was eventually fired from the gig due to his reckless antics. This would not be the last firing that Hendrix would have in his career.
In 1968, Fleetwood Mac released their self-titled debut album, also known as Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac. It peaked at number 4 on the UK charts and stayed there for 37 weeks. The band would not find success in the US until the Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham incarnation of the band.
In 1975, Led Zeppelin released their 6th album, Physical Graffiti. Most of the songs were originally going to be on Led Zeppelin 3, 4, and Houses of the Holy. Physical Graffiti includes fan favorites, such as Kashmir, Trampled Underfoot, and 10 Years Gone.
In 1977, Manfred's Man Earth's Band scored a #1 single in the US with Blinded by the Light. The track originally was from Bruce Springsteen's debut album, Greetings from Asbury Park, New Jersey. The Earth's Band would also cover Springsteen's For You several years later.
In 1980, AC/DC lead singer Bon Scott died at a hospital in London. Scott was found unresponsive in a friend's car after a heavy night of drinking and was believed to have choked on his own vomit, which caused him to suffocate.
In 1982, DJ Murray the K died at 59. He is believed to be the first DJ in the US that played the Beatles, who helped lead the British invasion of the 1960s alongside other British pop and rock groups.
In 1985, the Smiths scored their first #1 album in the UK, Meat is Murder. The album's cover is a photograph of a soldier during the Vietnam War.
In 1986, Metallica released their 3rd album, Master of Puppets. It is now regarded as one of the best metal albums ever made.
In 1987, Andy Warhol died while in surgery for a gallbladder operation. Warhol managed and produced the Velvet Underground's first album with the iconic Banana album design, as well as the Rolling Stones' Sticky Fingers album.
In 2003, 100 people died and 230 were injured during a Great White concert in West Warwick, Rhode Island. A pyrotechnics malfunction ignited the club the band was playing at. Guitarist Ty Long Lee was among those killed during the incident. The band's manager, Daniel M. Bichel, pleaded guilty for 100 counts of involuntary manslaughter.
In 2009, President Obama honored Stevie Wonder as his musical hero. Obama awarded Wonder with the Library of Congress's Gershwin Prize, the highest award for pop music. Wonder became the 2nd recipient of this award after Paul Simon received the award in May 2007.
In 2019, Monkees bassist Peter Tork died at 77. He died due to a complication of tongue cancer. Diagnosed a decade prior, Torque was able to participate in Monkees reunion shows as late as 2016 and released his solo blues album, Relax Your Mind, in early 2018.
That's all for this week's Jayhawk Jukebox. Tune in next week at 5 o'clock.